Hey, what the fuck's up, guys? First of all, apologies. I'm really sick right now, sure you could tell. But recently, I've kind of just came out of a bit of a urbex phase of my life. And over those few years that I was doing urbex, I gathered some stories that I think might be worth telling. I'm kind of just gonna make these videos in no particular order, really. But they're gonna be paired with like footage and shit. There's plenty of stories and plenty of shit that I got to that I want to release and talk about and stuff. Initially, I wanted to make like documentaries and movies and all that kind of shit about it, but in the end I kind of realized that it's just, you know, the legality of it all, it's just not really plausible. There isn't really many options when it comes to content creation and crime, I suppose. So I ended up just saving all of this footage and I never really put it to use. So what better way to do it than some old 2013 cutcom type shit with just random ass gameplay in the background. Today's Assetto Corsa, but shit, I got some games in my rotation, but I've been fucking with this at the moment. Anyways, onto the story. This one's going to be about my first ever jib climb. The jib is the arm of the crane, you know. Now this is kind of a notable event because what actually got me into urbex, and in particular urban climbing, was actually people like Mustang Wanted and James Kingston all these years ago, seeing them climb cranes. And to be honest with you, I could never have seen myself doing that shit like in a million years. When I did my first ever crane, like my first ever mission, I sent a crane. I got to the hatch part of it, I looked up at the arm and I just called it quits. The idea of climbing a jib just seemed straight up outrageous, you know, almost like just straight up suicide. But it was always a bucket list item of mine, you know, like that was my Everest and I wanted to climb it eventually. But after a couple years of like being surrounded by heights, you know, you get more comfortable with them. So the idea of hitting the jib wasn't like that extreme anymore, you know, it was just basically a glorified ladder with a big ass death drop. So on some random Friday, my mate hits me up, it's like middle of the day or something, and he's like, hey bro, you want to come hit a jib for sunset? And of course, so I was like, yeah, fucking oath I do, you know, like I'm gonna tick this shit off. But admittedly, I wasn't all that confident. So unfortunately, on my first go, I didn't actually bring my action camera, so I don't have any POV footage of that. But not to worry, I went back the day later and I redid it. I'll get into that in a second. The entrance was honestly pretty easy for the most part because Bex at the time, especially climbing cranes, just hadn't really been rinsed like it has nowadays. There was no cams, no security, no dogs, none of that shit. So we kind of just marched right in, me and my mate. And the second we got to the jib, he just went straight for it. Before I was even mentally prepared to climb this shit, he was already up the top. So once he hit the top, I stopped taking photos and I was like, alright, I guess it's my turn. The way that we climbed it was super fucked. We only used the bars. I don't know why, because the second time, and the footage that I'll have, I was using the grate, as you'll be able to see. But, you know, not knowing any better, it's my first jib, I just followed the bros way up, telling myself one bar at a time. I distinctively remember being halfway up, as you can see in this photo. The drop turns from a deadly but rather small drop onto like the lower building, which is a lot bigger. And I remember this being like in my head, the point of no return. But after a couple seconds of sitting there and contemplating it all, I decided to just send it. And next thing you know, I found myself at the very top, accomplishing one of my, honestly, as gay as it's gonna sound, one of my longest lasting dreams. So why is the video still going, you're wondering? Well, if you're paying any attention, you'd know I went back. Unhappy with how the first one went, you know, not getting it on video, getting any good photos, being too scared to take it all in, and most importantly, I forgot my shoes up there. But lucky for me, it was Friday going on to Saturday, so if I went the literal next day, because no one works on a Saturday on this site, I would have been able to get my shoes before any workers came on the site. Leaving the house that day genuinely just like felt wrong. I think I was just nervous, but I remember looking at my dog as I closed the front door, just thinking to myself, this could genuinely be the last time I see her, which is a terrible way to feel about climbing and probably indicates I wasn't really ready for a jib climb yet. But I marched on. Things this day were just like tense. I don't remember pumping any music on the way there while I was climbing, wasn't on any drugs, you know, just sober and locked the fuck in. But not too long after starting, I began to doubt myself, especially because this time the crane was just straight off the edge.
So I've done this crane before, but I'm not feeling it right now. I'm actually kind of shaking in a way.
Oh, fucking really?
Unfortunately. I'd love to keep going, but it's not worth it. Came all this way and I'm not even going to end up doing it.
Well, that didn't last long. After turning around and realizing what I was looking at was essentially just a glorified ladder, I felt a lot more comfortable and went straight back to that one bar at a time sort of flow state until I find myself at the very top, navigating through a tight section. I reached the peak, and this time actually get to take it all in. Although a bit disappointed with the sunset this attempt, I took my photos, and after a few minutes of chilling, I started the down climb. Climbing down's usually the best part, much less stress on your body, and you're lowering yourself down to safety, not climbing away from it. So mentally it's like a little nicer as well, until I started hearing sirens from below. When you're on a crane in broad daylight, this is probably your cue to leave. But thankfully enough, the sirens kept going in the distance and I made it down safely. And getting down, funnily enough, is kind of why I climbed in the first place, because that feeling of relief and euphoria was pretty surreal. One of those moments that feel like they're straight out of a movie. Straight after this, I'm pretty sure I just went across the road and hit like another crane. That crane had a fucking ladder on the jib, so that was a walk in the park compared to this and doesn't really deserve a video.